All right, so we have had 2 Coffee Connects so far. Welcome to our Coffee Connect on social awareness. Just some introductions. So I am Jill Gunther. I am one of the social emotional behavioral learning specialists with Nebraska MTSS, and I serve regions 3 and 4. So that's ESUs 1, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, and 17. And you may notice there's only 2 SEBL specialists on today. Mackenzie Rydell, who serves regions 1 and 2, which are ESUs 4, 5, 6, and then LPS, and then ESUs 2, 3, and OPS, has decided that she wanted to go on vacation, so she is not here with us today. And I will let Emily introduce herself.
Good morning, Emily Arkfeld, SEBL Specialist, Nebraska MTSS, and I serve Region 5 out in the western part of Nebraska, ESUs 13, 15, and 16.
Perfect. So just to get us started today, so our little welcoming inclusion activity, I'm sure we're all hoping that we see the sun again sometime soon. Yesterday was a little bit dreary and rainy, and I don't know that it's looking so good for today either, but hopefully this weekend. So which sun are you today? We have a QR code that you can scan. We also have a link there or the Menti code. So if you go to menti.com, you can enter that code there. So 79204924, just as a little check-in. So you'll choose the number that's associated with the sun. It has a little description there as well. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to do that. All right, so it looks like we maybe have a couple people voting yet. We will also get the PDF of the slide deck in the chat here for you guys. So if you want to follow along, or maybe Emily already did it. Perfect, thank you. All right, so quite a few there for filled with lots of different feelings. A few overwhelmed by a long to-do list. Yes, the never-ending to-do list. Lots of new ideas. Delighted by gratitude and love. Okay, very good. You guys can continue to vote if you haven't. We just like to do those just as a little check-in to see just kind of where everybody is at, especially for those that may be experiencing lots of different feelings, or maybe that feeling of overwhelmed or that never-ending to-do list. We really want to say thank you for being here with us today. Hopefully the opportunity to just have some discussion with those of us that are those champions for SEBL, and the sharing of resources will hopefully help some of those feelings as well. So we do appreciate you guys being here with us today. All right, let's go back to our slides here. So thank you, Emily. So if you need the slide deck, if you would like to follow along with us with the links and some of that, it is in the chat. Couple reminders here. So if you have not visited our Padlet for our SEBL Coffee Connects, please do so. We try to link in all of the resources that we share from each of our slide decks into the Padlet resources. There's also a column for some things that you hope to gain or some questions. So we try to address any questions that come up in our next Coffee Connect, or always feel free to reach out to the contact information that we shared as well. All of our Coffee Connect previous resources, so we have gone through self-awareness and self-management. So those are all linked in the Padlet as well. In the very last column, the previous Coffee Connects. And so we have everything linked in that one spot. Good question. Password for the link, or password for the Padlet is capital MTSS. So it's all caps when you go there. You guys can also definitely feel free, if you have some resources that you come across and would like to add, you can add those to the Padlet. You can send them our way and we can add them. But we just want to have just kind of that one-stop shop for a lot of different resources that go with each of the competencies. All right, so we always like to start with just those reminders of what is SEBL, what is social emotional behavioral learning, and our definition there. So it's that systematic process of fostering those social and emotional skills for students and adults so that we can create that safe and supportive environment with positive behavioral outcomes. So as you've heard us say before, so we're really working to bring behavior with social emotional learning because we know they are so much interconnected, they're intertwined, and we don't want them working in silos. We want all of those systems that are there to support our students working together. And we know that we need both students and adults to have those social emotional behavioral learning competencies so that they can have those positive behavioral outcomes. So they can do things like manage their emotions and be able to handle conflict with peers and be able to handle disappointment. All of those things, as we're talking about those competencies, be able to show those positive behaviors. So somewhere, like we said, SEL and behavior became split, but we're really working to bring them back together because we don't want all of those systems to be working in silos. We want all of the systems that are there to support students to be working together. So you guys have seen this each time if you've attended our Coffee Connects, but it has all of those social, emotional, behavioral learning competencies, and then some of the skills that we go through, and then the resources or tools to support those skills for each of those 5 competencies. So Nebraska MTSS has adapted the CASEL competencies. So there are 5, so self-awareness and self-management. And then today we are going to be talking about social awareness. And we also have responsible decision-making and relationships. And so those are those 5 competencies. They occur across the lifespan. So as we are talking about those, we're not only talking about them from the perspective of student development, but also from adult mastery. So specifically, social awareness, our focus for this Coffee Connect. So what is social awareness? So really looking at our awareness of others, being able to understand that others have feelings and knowing that our actions affect other people. So we've come up with this definition. So from a few different resources, including CASEL, including Greater Good, and really kind of mix them together for our definition of social awareness. So the ability to take that perspective of and empathize with others, particularly with people from different backgrounds than our own. Also including understanding social and ethical behavior and that our actions impact others. So this is our web really broken down to the social awareness piece. And so what is happening in the world around me? Kind of that reflective question there. And then the skills for social awareness that we're going to focus on. So understanding other perspectives, empathy, awareness of culture, and then combating isms. And so it kind of breaks it down for each of those skills a little bit further to identify some areas that you could work on within the classroom with your students. We also, some of the activities that we're sharing with you today, they could be used with students, but also with adults. So during staff meetings or just sharing out with colleagues. We really liked this little continuum. So it just kind of shows that development of SEBL. And so it's social awareness from preschool through high school. And it really kind of outlines as we're thinking about social awareness and some of the skills of what the child can understand at each of those different levels. And obviously it happens even beyond high school. So when we're thinking about adults as well. So at the preschool age, so expressions and situations, so those more basic emotions. So being able to show happy, sad, angry, scared. And then as we're looking at more of the elementary age, so the students being able to understand and use those, being able to regulate those emotions, being able to hide or express emotions. And then moving into middle school, when they can feel mixed emotions all at the same time. And then high school, so experience, the emotions experience may depend on one's experiences and personality traits. So at the high school level, being able to understand that that can happen. We are going to move into just kind of sharing some different resources that we have come across or used in the past. Again, all of the resources that we're sharing with you, we do have linked in that Padlet. This first one, so what's the tint of your glasses? So it is linked, I believe, under overview there. But just kind of a nice little activity as we're thinking about understanding other perspectives. So breaking the class up into some small groups, maybe having them draw out their pair of eyeglasses, or you could print out like a little handout where they're going to be drawing some different designs, some different symbols on their glasses based on just the discussion questions that you provide to them. So you might provide different things like, have you ever lived on a farm or on a ranch or in a big city? And then maybe they put a small design or a symbol on their eyeglass representing whatever their answer is there. Maybe how many siblings do you have? And they're putting down a design or a symbol to represent that. Your country of birth, maybe what language do your parents speak other than or in addition to English? And they're putting a design or a symbol on their eyeglass. So they're creating their own. And then really having that discussion about, do these eyeglasses look the same? Talking about different experiences, different people, different perspectives, maybe even giving the example of how a city person versus maybe a country person might look at pigs. So I grew up on a farm. So maybe it's those different perspective of either pigs are dirty or pigs are great, just kind of looking at those different perspectives and how people have varying views. Coming up with different examples, talking about perceptions, talking about assumptions, conflict, and respecting those differences. So really honing in on that respect for differences and looking at those different perspectives. So that is just kind of a quick little overview of that activity. So I would encourage you to click on that link and read a little bit more about it if it looks like something that you would be interested in sharing with students or even having adults do. We have a quick little video for you that we wanted to share with you. So it's really related to empathy. So empathy and understanding other perspectives. We have lots of different activities for kind of those two skill areas. And so we love that video. If you have not seen it, it's just a really good one because it just gives us that good reminder of we have no idea what's going on with the people that we come across, that we interact with each and every day. And it just does a really nice job of showing both that student perspective as well as adults. So a great video. These are some reflective questions that could certainly be used to kind of go along with that video, or maybe another video or activity, but we wanted to share those with you as well because they could be used for both empathy and understanding other perspectives. But yes, very, very powerful video for sure. All right, the listening circle is the next activity that we wanted to share with you. So just another great activity to go along with understanding other perspectives and kind of that empathy as well. They both definitely go together, but it provides that opportunity to hear, or you could even do it with books as well. So different perspectives. So with books, you could do it, or with some just like discussion or prompts for students. Helps build that community. So students definitely we have to establish those expectations first so that we know it's that safe circle, that they can share that information. We can respect one another's different opinions or discussions. So some different prompts could be just things like, who do you look up to most and why? What advice would you give yourself today and why? And so really focusing on those listening strategies and building that community amongst those individuals. We love to share the different calendars as well. So this one with the screenshot here is actually the Random Acts of Kindness school calendar. So if you guys have not seen this, it's a good one to download, something that you could post in your office or your classroom or your school or whatever it might be, but has just different random acts of kindness. So you could make it into a challenge within your classroom, maybe even amongst your staff. So it has things like picking up trash in your school hallways, doing 15 minutes of stretches, finish your work on time and to the best of your ability. Let's see, today is what, the 23rd, so I did read that one. But just good calendars for each month that you could have posted and just good reminders. The Action for Happiness and the Greater Good and Happiness calendars, those are great ones as well. Again, they are in our Padlet and then also linked on this slide deck. If you haven't checked them out, we would definitely encourage you to do so. I am going to turn it over to Emily to talk about the next activity.
Thanks, Jill. So still kind of sticking with that empathy skills that we're trying to strengthen. So this one's a classroom gratitude book. And what I really loved about this one is that I feel like it talks about gratitude, and that's the point of it. So you create a book and you have each student take it home and you guys can read and then just fill out in their family for things they're grateful for. But it also really feeds into that social awareness and perspective of getting a kind of a glimpse into the life and the family and the culture, and what do things look like in your classmates' homes and things they're grateful for, and where do they focus their time and energy. So really kind of seeing into what's going on with our classmates. I think sometimes we forget that our classmates have lives outside of school. Our teachers have lives outside of being teachers. And so being able to bring that in and share that with each other can be really powerful. And then we also linked in some journal prompts. I think they're 30 days. So we have some staff ones. So you can do it on your own. You can share it out with your staff, and then grades 2 through 5 and 6 through 12. So some resource for you guys with that. You know, research shows that practicing gratitude is a big piece in just managing our own emotions and taking care of our own well-being. So wanted to make sure we got those for you guys. So classroom service projects, again, following that empathy, lots of just different ways to connect with and make an impact in your community and understand kind of your community needs. So holding a clothing, food, or can drive for local shelter. We also, if you have a local food bank that serves your community, or if a church partners with your school, your district to provide coats or food bags or things like that, can you do drives to help replenish that? So you really know that you're giving back to the families in your community. Visiting a local nursing home as a class. We know COVID has kind of changed those things, but still something hopefully on the horizon we'll be able to do again. Cleaning up litter. I think that was the thing that was for today on that kindness calendar. Creating care packages for families in need around the holiday. And also we had a counselor and she would have her elementary school build hygiene packs. So for our district social workers, we got grant money. And so we purchased a bunch of hygiene items, and then the students would kind of put those into, so shampoo, conditioner, toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, deodorant, put those into bags by like female, male, and kid. And then our team could just grab and go. So a quick resource for us. And it really built kind of that community service for the students. Peer mentoring opportunities. So can you do that within your schools? So your, fifth graders go help your kindergartners, things like that. And then other activities and extracurriculars that help promote that inclusivity. So diversity story time, I think this really, I know when the pandemic first hit, this was a really big thing, and there were all kinds of book lists that came out. And so this is just that reminder to fill your school library with books that show diversity. So we talk about, windows and mirrors. So windows being books that show a glimpse of a life that is different than your students. So they get to kind of look into what that different experiences, different cultures, different backgrounds, like what does that look like? And then mirrors, making sure you have books that reflect the students back to them. So if they are of a specific culture or background or disability, that they can read books that reflect themselves back to them. And so this has 2 links on there. Waterford, this is where the blurb is from, about teaching diversity in the classroom through books. And then Edutopia is where the image is from. And the Edutopia link has book recommendations based on like grade level. So they have, the early elementary all the way through high school books that you could be using in your classroom. Then this next one is just a specific one. So we have, this video was shared with us a while back by one of our team members. And so you can watch it on YouTube. You can read the book if you have the book or can find the book. And then there are some lesson plans that go along with that. And the books on the previous slide there, I could have linked them in for you. There are tons of discussion questions, reflection question, lessons plans built around these books that are highly recommended. So those are out there for you. And then this one is just a specific one that we decided to link in. So for the potato activity, still kind of going along with the awareness of culture and social awareness as a whole. The idea, so linked in there in the activity description, again, all of these things are linked with further descriptions or to the websites that they came from. We did not come up with all of these on our own. We are grabbing wherever we can. But this one is, you bring in a bag of potatoes and you talk about, we kind of lump potatoes together. Potatoes are potatoes, carrots are carrots, but handing them out individually to students and having them kind of describe their potato or make up a story about how the potato got their bumps and their lumps and things like that. And then a further discussion of like, we can't just lump people into one group. Everyone has their strengths and their interests and their own characteristics. And when we lump people into a group, then we can end up stereotyping them based on something, and have a discussion around, what kind of groups do you belong in? So the example I thought of was, we have football players that are out there, varsity football players out there playing on Friday night. And then during halftime, they go grab their trumpet or the trombone or whatever, and they go out with the band and they perform at halftime. And then they come back and they finish out the second half, so that students have various interests and can fit into several groups based off of their interests and strengths. And so having them kind of talk through what that might look like. Combating isms. We know that the political climate is what it is right now, and educators have to be a little bit more cautious about what they're talking about and the lessons that they're teaching and the conversations they're having in their classrooms. But we still feel it's valuable and important because these kids, it's happening no matter what, these kids are living these lives no matter what, and they're seeing these things. And so if you're in a safe place to kind of guide those conversations, we hope that educators are doing that. This one is definitely focused a little bit more on the older students, but having just a diary of some of their immediate thoughts and responses to people that are different from them. We all have these thoughts that pop into our head, even if we don't mean them or believe them, or there is no intent behind them. It's just how we are hardwired to do. And so having students just recognize and call that to attention and write that down. And then you can have some reflection questions on that. They're linked in here in the Greater Good in Education link. You don't need to have students report that out in the classroom. We don't want it to be detrimental to anyone, but do think it's important for students to be aware of their thoughts and then kind of reflect on that as well. How would you handle scenarios? So I like these because they are not just culture or race-based. They are really focused on what all kinds of things that our kids are coming in with. So an appropriate name based on their skin color or physical disability that was picked last in recess. Your friend makes fun of LGBTQ plus. Team leaders can only be boys versus girls. So really looking at kind of all of those isms and bringing up scenarios and having your students reflect on how would they handle that? Would they say something? How does it feel to be in that person's shoes? So kind of back to those questions that Jill shared after the Under the Surface video. And then naming them, calling them what they are, racism and sexism and ableism. And we know, again, these are hard conversations to be having, but want to share the information with you nonetheless, so that if you are in a space or your staff or your educators are in a space to have these conversations, you have some resources to fall back on to provide these conversations. And then just good reminders for all of us as the adults doing this work every day with students is educate yourself on the issues that our students might be facing and common inequalities, and pulling your information and your facts from various places. So don't just stick with one news source and believe that everything they're sharing is cold hard facts. So seek out information from people who might have different values or views than you, and see what they're saying and what is being shared, so that you really are just kind of being well-rounded in your information. And it helps then understand how your actions impact the impact your actions have and the impact your colleagues' actions have as well. We know in schools, not everybody is coming with the same experiences and views and background. And so being aware of that, and how do we move forward and, still provide the best for our students and our colleagues. Immersing yourself in TV, movies, books, etc., with people who reflect your students, and recognizing that, again, those aren't always rooted in fact. So there are lots of movies that kind of feed into stereotypes and things like that. And so recognizing how your students might be portrayed in one way versus what, how they really wish to be seen. Involving yourself in the community of your students. And I think this happens a lot. I think our educators do participate in activities or go to fairs that are happening in the community, but we don't always live in that same community. I think about, especially in the metro area, you can live in Gretna and work in North Omaha, and that's a very different community. So making sure you're taking the time to be involved in what's going on in the community, to really get to know, what that means for your students and what needs they might have. Taking time to understand and appreciate students and parents' perspectives. And I think about this with students that we as adults come in with 22 plus years of experience and biases and views and things that have shaped our lives. And that's going to be different than your 5-year-old student or your 12-year-old student or even your 18-year-old student. So being able to kind of take off that adult hat when you can, and meeting your students where they're at and trying to understand things from their perspective. And then the same with the parents. They also come in with their own backgrounds and views and experiences. And, we know, I'm sure a lot, parents come in with maybe skewed views of education system. And so we have to recognize that and, again, meet them where they're at and see what their needs are and how we can help meet those. And then being mindful and empathetic of how your students' culture shape your class. So everyone comes with their stuff, and that's always going to impact your class. I mean, think about it, even just with a student who has high behaviors. If they're there that day, it's going to be different than when they're not there that day. So students are coming in with their own stuff every day, and that absolutely shapes and impacts your class. And so just recognizing and being mindful of that is important. Okay, and so we have this again in every one. It's a self-assessment link. We have a few of them linked into the Padlet as well. So if you want to just kind of figure out where you are in your competencies, where you are in implementing SEBL into your classrooms and to your schools, you can go through these. So those will always be linked in there for you. Kind of just good to basis to know, and then to share out with your staff too, and see where they are and where your strengths and limitations might be in your school. And then where can you kind of beef that up where you need to. We share this in the Padlet. There's you can print it off and send it home with families. There's other resources for families as well, but kind of similar to what we talked about. So encouraging parents to read books and to watch movies and TV shows with different life experiences, and then to do your own community service at home. So volunteering at your local shelter, food bank, things like that. Video is linked. We won't go through this one, but this one, if you want to share with staff or watch for yourself, for more information, this is linked in the Padlet as well. And then we want to make sure we give some time for discussion. We're getting that feedback of I want some time to connect with others. And so we want to provide that today. So we want to just go through these last little pieces quickly. Our next Coffee Connect is on April 27th. We hope to see you there. But again, if you can't make it, resources and videos are always available to you afterwards. And then the save the date for the next NeMTSS Summit has come out on creating coherence. And this is all MTSS systems. So academic, behavior, social emotional learning, how to build your system, how to take your system to the next level. And I know the feedback has been that this year, we're really looking at new presenters and new topics to really grow in that knowledge. So save the date is out there. We hope to see some of you there as well. If you see the need for your school, your district, your ESU to kind of look at how do we build SEBL into our system in an intentional way, we have our workshop series to do that. This is linked, I think, in our Padlet too, and it's on our website. So really going through with a district leadership team or a school leadership team of how do you do this intentionally into what you're already doing systematically in your buildings. And then we're going to put the exit ticket in here. If you don't have time now, that is totally fine. We understand if you would just click the link and leave it open as a tab. I'm sure one of your 47 other tabs you have open right now. But if you take a moment just to fill this out, this really helps us understand where we go from here and how do we best meet the needs of the educators doing this work across the state. We also have a question about our May one because it's at the end of the month and we know that either people will be done or it'll be their last week or almost last week, and that's hard to spend that time here. So we're looking at some feedback on when to move it or whether to move that. So if you take a minute to do that, we'd appreciate it. And then we don't have very much time, but we want to just, we won't necessarily do breakout rooms because we are a small group today, but just wanted to open it up for questions, discussion, connections. If you see someone like, oh, hey, like, I know you're doing this in this district or this school, like, what's that look like for you? We want to just open up that time for you guys for any of that discussion you might have.
I'm going to put the link for the exit ticket. I'll put it in the chat here again in case you missed it. And we also have for our optimistic closure, a note of gratitude. So it is actually a virtual kind of thank you card or just note that you could send to a colleague. You guys probably know about all of the benefits of that gratitude. But I think now even more than ever, just that important piece of being able to let a friend or a colleague or anybody just know that you appreciate them, that you're thinking of them. But this was just kind of a nice little virtual thank you that we came across. So that was kind of nice. So you can click on the link there. Otherwise, I can grab it here and I'll put it in the chat. So here is the exit ticket in case you need it.
I've got the gratitude link.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily.
Mhm. You get double whammy. You get to make someone else's day good, and you get to make your day a little bit better by sending on that little piece of gratitude.
Yes, for sure. All right, and be sure to visit the Padlet. If you guys have other questions that you didn't get the opportunity to ask, or if something comes up in the meantime, you can certainly put them on the Padlet. That way we can address them next time. If there's something in particular that you're looking for as a resource, let us know that as well. We love to be able to just kind of do some of that research and find some things that apply to kind of what you're looking for. So reach out to us either via email or through that Padlet. And we appreciate you guys coming and joining us again today.